What if the force that created everything, your brain, the stars, the laws of physics, has absolutely no idea how it did it? Not a clue. Not a blueprint, not a plan, not a schematic filed away in some cosmic archive. And what if this isn't a flaw? What if this is the secret? There's a truth about divine intelligence that's been hidden. Not by conspiracy, but by something worse, by assumption. By a model of God so deeply embedded in your thinking that you've never once questioned it. And that model has been quietly destroying your life. Here's what nobody says. The most powerful creative force in existence doesn't think. It doesn't plan. It doesn't know, in any way you'd recognize as knowing. And that's not a limitation. That's the source of its power. Alan Watts understood this. What he said about it would dismantle entire theological traditions if people actually heard it. They haven't, until now. Here's what this looks like in your life. You wake up, and before your feet hit the floor, the planning starts. What do I need to do today? How do I fix this situation? What's the right move? You pour coffee and you're already 3 steps ahead, running simulations in your head. Trying to figure out the correct path through your day, through your week, through your life. You make lists, you set intentions, you visualize outcomes. You read books about optimizing your decisions, you journal about your goals. You track your habits, you build systems to manage systems. And underneath all of it, underneath the productivity apps and the morning routines and the 5-year plans, there's a belief so deep you've never even looked at it. The belief is this: intelligence means knowing. Knowing means control. Control means safety. And if you can just know enough, figure out enough, plan enough, understand enough, you'll finally get it right. Sound familiar? Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Where did you get this model of intelligence? You got it from the same place almost everyone did. You modeled it on God. Not the God of mystics, not the God of direct experience. The God of Sunday school and Western theology. The God who sits outside creation, drafts a blueprint, and builds the universe like an engineer builds a bridge. The God who knows everything, the cosmic CEO with the master plan. You've been trying to run your life the way you think God runs the universe. Through total knowledge, total planning, total control. And it's not working. You feel it in your chest. That tightness when things don't go according to plan. That low-grade panic when you don't know what's coming next. That exhaustion, not physical but mental, from trying to hold all the variables in your head at once. You feel it in your jaw at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep because you're still running the numbers on a decision you already made. You feel it in that hollow sensation after you've planned something perfectly and it still falls apart. And then the cycle starts again. Monday, plan harder. Wednesday, something unexpected. Friday, damage control. Sunday, dread. Monday, plan harder. Week after week, month after month, year after year. The same pattern: plan, control, fail, plan harder. And through it all, you're telling yourself, I just need more information. I just need a better strategy. If I could just figure this out, everything would fall into place. Smart people plan, successful people know. I just need to know more. You're not stupid for thinking this. You were taught it by every institution you've ever encountered. School taught you that knowing the answer is what makes you intelligent. Work taught you that having a plan is what makes you competent. Religion taught you that God knows everything, and you should try to be like God. The entire architecture of your self-worth is built on knowing. And not knowing, that feels like death. But there's something underneath this that nobody mentions. Something that explains why the pattern never breaks, no matter how much harder you plan. And once you see it, the entire game changes. Here's the forbidden truth. The model of God you've been copying doesn't exist. It never did. The cosmic engineer, the divine planner, the all-knowing architect who designed every atom with intention and filed the blueprints in heaven. That's not God. That's the Industrial Revolution wearing a halo. Alan Watts saw this with devastating clarity. He spent years studying Eastern philosophy, not as a tourist, but as someone who could read the original texts and understand what they actually said versus what Western interpreters wanted them to say. And what he found was this: the oldest descriptions of ultimate reality, the Tao, Brahman, the ground of being, describe something radically different from a cosmic manufacturer. They describe something that grows, not makes, grows. Watts explained it in the way of Zen with a distinction so simple it's almost insulting. The Tao doesn't make the universe as a carpenter makes a table, it grows it. And growing is something that happens from the inside, without the grower needing to understand the mechanics of what it's doing. Think about that for a moment. You're growing your hair right now. You're digesting food. Your immune system is fighting off pathogens you'll never know about. Your bone marrow is producing millions of blood cells per second. Your neurons are firing in patterns so complex that the world's most powerful supercomputers can't fully simulate a single second of their activity. And you have absolutely no idea how you're doing any of it. Not a clue. You can't explain how you grew your own brain. You can't describe the process by which you turn a sandwich into energy, thought, and movement. You don't know how you beat your own heart. You don't know how you see color or form memory or fall asleep. And yet, it works, flawlessly, continuously, without a single conscious plan. This is what Watts called tzu-jan, the Chinese concept usually translated as naturalness or spontaneity, but which literally means of itself so. Self-so, happening by itself, not forced, not planned, not known in advance. And here's the part that should stop you cold. This is exactly how the universe itself operates. Not through knowledge, through spontaneity, not through planning, through growing. The intelligence that creates galaxies and grows redwoods and constructs the human nervous system doesn't sit outside its creation running calculations. It is the creation. It unfolds from within. And it doesn't need to know how it works any more than you need to know how you grow your fingernails. Watts was explicit. The intelligence behind nature is not the intelligence of a technician or an engineer. It's the intelligence of a living organism, so sophisticated that it has no need for the cumbersome machinery of deliberate thought. Read that again. So sophisticated that it has no need for thought. Not lacking thought, not failing to think, beyond the need for thought entirely. This isn't Alan Watts being poetic. This is a precise description of how reality actually functions, and it's been confirmed from directions he never anticipated. Neuroscience has spent the last 4 decades uncovering exactly what Watts described. Your conscious mind, the part that plans and knows and strategizes, processes roughly 40 to 50 bits of information per second. That's it. That's the planner, the knower, the part you think of as you. Your unconscious processing, 11 million bits per second. 11 million versus 50. Manfred Zimmerman's research on sensory neuroscience established these numbers decades ago, and they've been refined since. But the ratio holds. The part of you that doesn't know, that operates beneath awareness through what cognitive scientists call implicit processing, is handling over 99.99% of everything your organism does, every microsecond of every day. Your body's intelligence dwarfs your mind's intelligence by a factor of over 200,000 to 1. And this ratio? It mirrors exactly what Watts saw in the Taoist description of reality. The knowing mind, the planner, the controller, the engineer, is a tiny, recent, and spectacularly limited addition to an intelligence so vast it doesn't register on the scale of conscious thought. You've been trying to run your life with 50 bits per second, while ignoring the 11 million that are already running everything. And this isn't just one tradition seeing this. The Stoics saw it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the logos, the intelligence pervading nature that organizes everything without deliberation. The universe is change, he wrote. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The change is real. The thoughts, the plans, the knowledge, the strategies, are the tiny story you layer on top of something immeasurably larger. The Christian mystic saw it. Meister Eckhart, a Dominican friar in the 13th century, said something so radical it nearly got him burned. God is beyond knowing, not because God is stupid, but because what we call knowing is a net, and God is the ocean. He understood that divine intelligence cannot be captured by any concept, including the concept of omniscience. The creative force is so far beyond what we mean by knowledge that calling it knowing is more misleading than calling it not knowing. The Hindu tradition names it directly. The Kena Upanishad, composed over 2,000 years ago. That which is not known by the mind, but by which the mind itself knows. Know that to be Brahman. Different centuries, different languages, different continents, same truth. The creative intelligence behind reality doesn't know what it's doing, in the way you mean knowing. Not because it's incompetent, because knowing is too small a word for what it does. So why has this been hidden from you? Because the entire operating system of Western civilization runs on the assumption that knowing is power. That intelligence equals information, that the more you can plan and predict and control, the more capable you are. This assumption built the Industrial Revolution. It built modern medicine. It built the internet. But it also built your anxiety. It built the voice in your head that says you need to figure everything out before you can move. It built the paralysis you feel when you don't have enough information. It built the exhaustion of trying to be the CEO of your own existence, running a corporation of one, producing quarterly reports on your life for an audience of nobody. The model works beautifully for building machines. It doesn't work for living a life. Because you're not a machine, you're an organism. And organisms don't operate by knowing, they operate by growing. So what does this actually mean for you? It means the thing you've been treating as your biggest problem, not knowing, is actually the doorway to everything you want. Not knowing what comes next, not knowing the right move, not knowing how to fix it. These aren't failures of intelligence, they're signatures of it. Every moment you've relaxed your grip, every time you stopped trying to figure it out and just let something happen, you touch the intelligence that actually runs things. You've felt it. That moment when you stop trying to remember a name and it surfaces 10 minutes later, fully formed. That conversation where you stopped rehearsing what to say and something came out of your mouth that was better than anything you could have scripted. That decision you made on instinct, against all the analysis, that turned out to be the best one you ever made. That creative idea that arrived in the shower, not at the desk, not during the brainstorm. In the shower, when you finally stopped trying. That wasn't luck. That was the 11 million bits doing what they do. That was tzu-jan. Watts didn't meditate for hours trying to force insight. He described his own process as getting out of the way. Not adding more knowledge, subtracting the interference of the knower. The difference is everything. The old model says, know more, control more, live better. The real model says, interfere less, trust the intelligence that built your brain. It handles what your 50 bits never could. What does this look like in practice? When you face a decision and the urge to overanalyze rises, you notice the urge, you feel it. And instead of spinning up the planning machine for the 100th time, you ask a different question. Not what should I do, but what wants to happen here? When you're stuck on a problem, creative, professional, personal, instead of grinding harder, you walk away. Literally, you let the 11 million bits work on it while the 50 bits rest. And you notice that solutions arrive not through effort, but through allowing, through stepping aside. When the anxiety of not knowing hits, that tightness, that, I need to figure this out right now panic, you recognize it for what it is. Not a signal that you're failing. A signal that you're trying to use a flashlight to illuminate the sun. The flashlight isn't broken. It's just not the right tool. Notice what's not here. No technique to master, no system to implement, no new thing to add to your knowing. This isn't another layer of knowledge stacked on top of the pile that's already crushing you. It's recognizing that the pile was never necessary. Watts said it with a simplicity that almost sounds like a joke. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Not by stirring it, not by filtering it, not by analyzing its muddiness and developing a comprehensive water clearing strategy. By leaving it alone. The intelligence that grew you from 2 cells into 100 trillion. The intelligence that coordinates your heartbeat with your breathing, with your digestion, with your immune response. That intelligence doesn't need your help. It needs your interference to stop. You have 2 paths now. The first, keep the model. Keep planning, keep analyzing, keep running the simulations in your head at 2 a.m. Keep treating every unknown as a threat and every uncertainty as a problem to solve. Keep trying to be the cosmic engineer of your own life. In 5 years, you'll know more. You'll have better strategies, more tools, more frameworks. And you'll be just as anxious. Because you'll still be trying to run 11 million bits of intelligence with 50 bits of conscious control. Like trying to manage a forest by personally supervising every leaf. Like trying to control the ocean by gripping water in your fist. Nobody will stop you. This path is familiar. It feels responsible, productive, mature. And it costs you the one thing you actually want. Peace. The second path. Let what you've just seen land. Recognize that not knowing isn't your weakness. It's the signature of an intelligence so vast it operates without the need for thought. It's the same not knowing that beats your heart and grows your bones and fires your neurons in patterns that make supercomputers look like abacuses. Stop modeling yourself on the cosmic engineer who never existed. Start trusting the organism you already are. Not because you should. Because the evidence, from Watts, from neuroscience, from 25 centuries of mystics across every tradition on Earth, points to the same thing. The intelligence that made you doesn't know how it did it. And that's not a bug, it's the whole design. Watts never told people what to do. That would have violated everything he understood. He simply showed them what was already happening. Behind their plans, beneath their knowledge, underneath their frantic need to figure it all out. He said, "You are something the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing. You're not a separate engineer trying to build a good life. You're a wave, and waves don't need blueprints. I've shown you what was hidden, that the deepest intelligence in existence doesn't think, doesn't plan, doesn't know. And that this isn't the absence of its power, it's the very source of it. What you do with this is yours, it always was. Your heart is beating right now. You don't know how, and it hasn't missed a beat.